Good evening all. So yesterday in the class we were actually reading about the classical approaches where these are divisible into three types: scientific management, administrative management, bureaucratic management, and second one being the neoclassical approaches where it's about human relations approach and behavioral science approaches. So this human relation movement or this human uh, relation approach which is there, this theory basically emphasizes the importance of human and social factors and also the individuals as well as group relationship with the classical theory of the Taylor and also Fayol, and they have also given so much of importance to the job and also the management of a physical resources. So in spite of all these things, the contribution of a human which is there, it being sometimes very silent and are being applied even today by the manager. We will read all those things in the next classes. Then second one being the behavioral science movement. So in this case of this behavioral science movement or behavioral science approach, uh, the behavioral sciences approach through its research study of individual behavior. The word, see, behavioral science, that means behavior means how the individual or how the human behavior is actually being impacting, and the motivation indicates that the relationship between the morality and the productivity was oversimplified there. So this is little bit related to the work atmosphere, how the worker is working, and also the individual behavioral aspects, all those things. So this is one kind of a movement which was happening during the 1940 or 1930 that time, and so many scientists they have also explained the human behavior and the dynamics of motivation process also. That means how we can actually motivate the human. And then we have this modern approaches. So the modern approach to management is developed in the year of 1940 to 1950, and this approach is an improvement. It is very improved version of the classical and as well as neoclassical. In the classical method, what we have seen that there the man is actually inactive. There is no significance for human or man. But in case of this neoclassical, the person, that means Fayol, he says that it is the importance of a human work, human hand, which is very important. And in this case of this modern approach is completely, this is replacing the classical approach and neoclassical approaches. And here this approach is an improved version of both classical and neoclassical approach to management. And in this case, we have three different types. That is, one is quantitative approach, system approach, and contingency approach. So we move on to the first one, that is classical approach. So the classical approach, which are of three different types. And what are those three different types? One is the scientific, second administrative, third is bureaucratic, right? So the forerunners of scientific management theory. Generally say scientific management theory means which is related completely to the science. So in this case, there are some important important people who has actually revolutionized this scientific field, like Robert Owen we have, and Charles Babbage. Charles Babbage. I think you know who is the person Charles Babbage is. So he is very famous in the field of computer, right? So this person, the Robert Owen, who is there, he is actually the manager of different cotton textile mills. So he was the manager in the of cotton textiles, and he was the first person to pay more attention to the labor welfare. And he suggested that a change in the attitude of a industrialist. Industrialist means the business person, the business people who are there. If they actually change their attitude towards the worker, the work will be maximally working and possible and good results can be seen. And it is related to creating good working conditions for the workers, thereby trying to win over their confidence. All these things are very important. That means providing good work environment, good attitude towards the workers, and thereby winning their confidence levels, we can work successfully and give our best. He stated that the men should not be treated as a secondary or inferior. In this classical approach, what was actually the concept? It is that the man is inactive, but Robert Owen is telling that the significance, or we must give importance to human work also, and we should not, the men should not be treated as a secondary. They must be treated as primary. Primary means the giving the first position to them. And according to Charles Babbage, this person who is there, apart from this Robert Owen, there were some other scientists like this Charles Babbage, who has also emphasized so much of significance in the management by observing the scientific techniques. So prominent among them is this person Charles Babbage. He is generally a very famous mathematician from the Cambridge University, and he has studied the working conditions of a factories in the England, France and some part of the countries. And he has observed that most of the factory class used to work on the basis of estimates and imaginations. That means calculations are not there. They are not calculative. Just they are doing with some guessing, with some assumption and imagination. So they were tradition oriented rather than scientific minded. They are not at all a scientific minded people. They are not doing each and everything in a calculative mode. They are doing everything in a traditional way. So two important work of Babbage are the differential engine and on the economy of machinery and manufacture. Two important works he has actually introduced. One is the differential engine, and on the economy of machinery. And manufacturers. So he has introduced these two things. These are very leading important things in this management. And in this case, he stated that the methods of science and mathematics could be applied to the solution of the factory problem. So if any problem is coming in the factory, you can apply science and maths. So you can apply the maths and science so that you can solve the problem. For example, if you have a factory and there in the factory you have so number of workers are there, some 10 workers are there. So here, how you are applying the mathematics, you will see that for performing of any kind of a one job by the worker, what is the time taken. You will compare the same thing to the second worker, and you will see that the worker 1, worker 2, in these two, who is actually working very fast. And science, how you can apply the science? Science is nothing but the work of a machines. So in the machines, the scientific principles are applied because the machines are working with the help of an engine, and so many things will be there, fuel, all those things. So you are applying the maths and you are applying the science by which you are solving the problem of a factory. Then we have some very important salient feature of Taylor, F.W. Taylor, that is Frederick Winslow Taylor. He is also a very famous and very important person in this regard. We see what are actually the general features. So we are reading all these things in the scientific management. Okay, in the scientific management we are reading all these things. That is the first one. So we see what are actually the features of this scientific management. So here we have the separation of planning and doing. So separation of planning and doing. That means Taylor emphasized the separation of the planning aspect from actual doing of a work. He said that planning should be left to the supervisor and the worker should emphasize only on operational work. So what he is saying, the first thing being the separation of a planning, doing. So planning is related to the supervisor and work and the work which is there, it is related to the worker only. That means there is a separation of a plan and work. So the planning must be done by the supervisor and the work must be done by the worker only, and the worker should not emphasize the plan by the supervisor. He has to work accordingly what work is given to him. So the operational work which is there, it totally depends upon the plan which is done by the supervisor. Then second thing is functional foremanship. Functional foremanship. So Taylor evolved the concept of functional foremanship based on specialization of a function which would take planning the work adequately beside keeping supervision on the workers. That means here in the system 8 persons are involved to direct the activity of a worker. See here, what does this functional foremanship means? Foremanship. That means sometimes we say fellowship. That means everybody is working together to fulfill one goal. So here, when the functioning, when the work is happening in the factories, industries or in the production houses, that time the involvement of all these people will successfully make any production very fruitful. And 8 basic or 8 important persons are involved to direct the activity of a worker. That means 8 different kinds of a persons will be there who will actually see or who are actually in charge of the workers. So in this case different people will be there, but at present we can actually have some 4 plus 4 person plus 4 person. Not only this 8 members, sometimes 12 members will be also there. In that one, the first comes, that means the 8 person who are actually working in the functional foremanships, being the first person is root clerk, root clerk. Root clerk is the person who is generally related uh, to route through what kind of a raw material has to be passed. So he is related to what raw materials to be brought. And generally he get all these raw materials from the shop dispensary. And here whatever is happening, everything is happening in a sequence, and proper managerial work is also very important here. The second person is instruction card clerk. Instruction card clerk. So this instruction card clerk who is there, he actually give the instructions according to the work which is given to the workers. He will instruct the workers about the job or work which is given to them. How they have to do, what they have to do, all those things he will be guiding to them. Then third one is time and cost clerk. Time and cost clerk. That means the person who is concerned with setting any kind of a timetable for doing a job. Concerned with setting timetable for doing job by the worker, that person is called as a time and cost clerk. That means he will be also related with the specifying the material, what material, and also what is actually the labor cost, how many members are necessary. All these things is related to time and cost clerk. Then fourth one comes disciplinarian. So disciplinarian means a person who is responsible for ensuring discipline at the workplace. See, sometimes at home or at schools also we will have a particular person, and they will be actually responsible for checking the discipline. That means whether the students are going in one way or not, whether they are following everything or not properly. Whether generally in the morning assembly we can see sometimes that each and every students are going in a line or not, everybody are actually maintaining good discipline or not. All these things will be there. In the same way, likewise in the factories or in the production companies also, the person who actually ensures that proper discipline is also maintained at the workplace is called as a disciplinarian. So he plays a very important role. These are the first four, that is the root clerk, instruction card clerk, time and cost clerk, and disciplinarian. Then after this one The remaining 4% are also concerned with the other aspects.